Hello, my name's Simonize, and welcome to another Simonize video. The Season of Discovery Phase 4 public test realm is here, and we can log in and see a preview of many, but not all, of the new things coming in Phase 4. In this video, I'm going to be covering all the details about my favorite class, the Rogue. If you're interested in more general information applicable to all classes, that was the previous video, and it's linked in the video description, so take a look in there. This video is all about stuff on the test realm, so as a fair disclaimer, it is subject to change before this hits live servers. There are a lot of new things for Rogue, and I'll say I'm overall pretty impressed. We have some new types of poison to use. Rogues finally give a big raid buff to buff everyone else's DPS. We have tier sets for tanking, tier sets for DPS, new AoE damage options, and yes, Fan of Knives is coming, and it looks like Rogues will be eating good this phase, so let's dive in. First, I want to talk about the 4 new poisons, and one in particular, which is called Occult Poison. This poison is the source of Rogue's new raid debuff. It adds plus 10% non-physical damage taken for any target afflicted with Occult Poison. So this will boost up your Mage's Fireball, Paladin's Holy Damage, Shaman Chain Lightning, and even your own Poison and Envenom damage. Occult Poison essentially takes the place of Deadly Poison. It stacks to 5, deals damage over time, and once you learn it, your Deadly Brew rune automatically applies Occult Poison instead of the old Deadly Poison. Since it fits in so nicely, Rogues do not suffer any DPS loss in order to apply this debuff in a raid setting. Every group will want to have a Rogue now for this debuff, regardless if Rogue's individual DPS output is good or not, but I'd say it's looking pretty good too, so don't worry about that. There are also a few other poisons that allow Rogues to provide a variety of debuffs that could also be provided by other classes. But hey, you might not have those other classes around all the time, and it's nice to have a little more toolkit available. Numbing Poison applies a 20% attack speed slow, Atrophic Poison reduces the enemy's attack power, and Sebaceous Poison reduces the enemy's armor. Sebaceous Poison's armor reduction is scaled to be the same as a 5 combo point Expose Armor finishing move, and the reduction is also improved via the Improved Expose Armor talent. So now Rogues who are trying to apply this armor debuff can either cast it manually with the finishing move or have it applied via the Sebaceous Poison. None of these other 3 debuff poisons deal any damage when they're applied, unlike Occult Poison. So using any of these 3 does result in a damage loss for the Rogue compared to using a different weapon enhancement like a Sharpening Stone, and using them in conjunction with Deadly Brew means that weapon will not trigger instant poison, which is a big damage loss. One important change I'd like to suggest to anyone at Blizzard listening to this is to make it so these new poisons do not have limited charges like they do now on the test realm. I don't think there's anything fun or interesting about the poison charges running out mid-combat, especially as a tank using the new AoE runes. The poison charges can deplete very quickly. And on the topic of runes, let's talk about the new runes Rogues are getting. All classes got 2 new rune slots, both the Cloak and the Ring, and you can use 2 Ring runes at once. The Ring runes for Rogue are very strong, but they are kind of bland like they are for most classes. There's a rune option for each weapon type to get plus 5 weapon skill with that weapon, 1 to give plus 6% chance to hit with nature spells, which are your rogue poisons, and 1 to give plus 25 defense skill. That's all well and good, but the really exciting new runes are the cloak runes, and we get 3 different options that all help with rogue AoE damage to multiple targets. Good old Fan of Knives is back as a cloak rune option. This ability has no cooldown, 50 energy cost, and hits all targets in an 8-yard range with both your main hand and offhand weapon. It can trigger your poisons on all those weapons, it can trigger weapon chance on hit effects, and most importantly, it can trigger energy generation from the focused attacks head rune, but not the combat potency rune. All those things together mean the key elements are in place to allow for the same crazy AoE damage we did with Fan of Knives in Wrath of the Lich King, but now in Season of Discovery. The way this all works is that the more enemies you're hitting with Fan of Knives, the more energy you're generating from focus attacks with each cast of Fan of Knives, and with enough enemies around you, each cast of Fan of Knives will restore enough energy from focus attacks to just cast another Fan of Knives. A particularly potent item to combine with this is the Fellstriker Dagger from the Blackrock Spire dungeon. The proc from this dagger will guarantee all those Fan of Knives are critical hits and will be insane damage boost. The second cloak rune is Crimson Tempest. This is a finishing move that puts a bleed damage over time effect on all targets within 8 yards of you. More duration and more damage for higher combo point values, and what's really interesting about Crimson Tempest is that it'll trigger your Relentless Strike's energy generation talent for each target hit by the Tempest. This results in a pretty nice situation when you have 4 or more targets around you, since casting a 5-point Tempest will trigger Relentless Strikes 4 times and restore you back to full 100 energy. You can just become a Mutilate turret, casting Mutilate, Mutilate, then Crimson Tempest to reload up to 100 energy without ever waiting or stopping. I tried to do this in a dungeon run of Lower Blackrock Spire and found it was actually pretty hard to have 4 mobs next to me and have them live for more than just a few seconds, but maybe that was more due to the particular group. I tanked a few runs after that, and the other rogue in the group was able to make great use of Crimson Tempest because I, as the tank, made sure to pull big groups of enemies to give them the opportunity to pop off with Crimson Tempest, and it was really insane. The final cloak rune is new, simple, and very strong. Blunderbuss gives the rogue a short-range AoE burst attack. It costs only 20 energy, has a 15-second cooldown, and hits up to 4 enemies at once, but doesn't give you any combo points. With only about 700 attack power on the test realms, this was hitting for around 1,200 damage and critting for around 2,400 damage, sometimes even more. And it'll do even more damage than that when you have higher attack power values. This is an absolute monster ability in dungeons because unlike Fan of Knives or Crimson Tempest, you don't need particular circumstances or special setup to make it good. Whenever there are 2 or more targets in front of you and Blunderbuss is off cooldown, you just blast them and it deals so much damage. These runes all kind of do the same thing. They're all AoE damage runes, but it looks to me like each one has its own niche, the right set of circumstances that make it super duper strong. Being able to choose the right one for the right situation will be critical for good AoE damage output from a rogue. There's one other rune change on the test realm that'll be a nice addition for tank rogues. Rolling with the Punch's Boot rune still does the same old, increasing your max health whenever you dodge or parry, but now also whenever you dodge or parry, you'll get a 15-second buff that gives you +4 attack power for each point of defense skill you have above the regular maximum of 300 defense skill. This makes bonus defense a good stat for tank rogues since it'll give defense but simultaneously provide a lot of offense as well. This necklace from Dire Maul just got way better for tank rogues since that +7 defense converts into 28 attack power and then you have a lot of really good stats here. Moving on from the runes, let's talk about the new armor sets. Rogues will be able to choose from 2 different versions of the tier 0.5 dungeon set Darkmantle and 2 versions of the tier 1 raid set Nightslayer. One itemized and designed for tanking and another for dealing damage. The Darkmantle tier 0.5 set was historically very strong on classic vanilla servers, and the damage dealer focused version we see on the test realm for Season of Discovery is actually buffed in comparison to the old vanilla version. Many of the items have a few more strength or agility on them, the legs have a bonus +1% crit chance also, and all of the chance to hit bonuses got replaced with chance to hit with all attacks and spells, so they improve both our physical chance to hit and our chance to hit with poisons, which are considered spells. The tanking set has about 90 more stamina and 2% more parry chance, at the cost of 1% dodge, 4% chance to crit, 2% less chance to hit, and about 120 less attack power. Even as a tank rogue, I'm not sure if those defensive gains are worth the loss of offensive power. Right now on the PTR, both the tank and DPS sets share the same set bonuses. Mixing and matching them from the different sets counts towards the same 2, 4, 6, and 8-piece bonuses. You can't do 4 of one set and 4 of the other set to try to get the 4-piece bonus twice. That's not how it works. Unlike the Darkmantle dungeon set, the Nightslayer raid set has different set bonuses for the DPS set and the tank set. I'd say the DPS bonuses are okay, but rather unremarkable. The 4-piece bonus increases the critical strike damage of poisons by 100%. If that applies to Envenom, that's great and much more exciting. But if it only applies to instant poison, it doesn't seem that good, since instant poison just doesn't crit very often. We'll have to test to verify once we gain access to these sets to see exactly how that bonus works. The 6-piece bonus on Nightslayer looks strong, but my initial impression is that we'll still want to be running 4 pieces of Darkmantle plus 4 pieces of Nightslayer to keep that very strong energy regeneration bonus from the Darkmantle set. What I'm super stoked for are the bonuses on the tanking set, especially the 2-piece bonus. This makes it so if you're running just a Flesh Wound and Blade Dance, Fan of Knives has its energy cost cut in half and it causes double threat. This is going to make rogues into monster AoE tanks and be so good. and since it's only a 2-piece bonus, I could really see Rogues keeping these 2 pieces of Nightslayer around in later phases just to access this insane bonus for AoE tanking. I've been doing a lot of dungeons runs on the PTR, and I've got 2 talent builds I'm using. The first one is what I'm doing for DPS, going into Assassination for Cold Blood, Combat for Blade Flurry, and the 4 leftover points into Subtlety for Opportunity. And let me tell you what, it feels really good to do a 5 combo point Cold Blood in Venom and clone that damage to 2 targets with Blade Flurry. For tanking dungeons, I found the most success with this Fan of Knives combat setup. Without a Deadly Brew chest rune, the poison talents in Assassination are less important, so I opted for more investment into combat. Adrenaline Rush is a great oh crap button to be pressing when mobs unexpectedly add into the fight, and you need to be able to pick them up quickly, need that boost of energy. The more mobs you can pull at once, the more able you are to hold threat on all of them. This is because Fan of Knives will refund more energy via focus attacks the more targets it hits, and you eventually get a critical mass of enemies that lets you cast Fan of Knives like almost every second. And when you're in that situation, no one's ripping threat off of you. For the Sword, Mace, and Fist Rogue enjoyers, Saber Slash received a good change on the PTR and is looking better than it was in Phase 3. Saber Slash is back to only 3 maximum stacks, and the 3 stack on PTR appears to do the same damage as the 5 stack on live servers, so they greatly reduced the ramp up time to get to your maximum damage potential. The tooltip does not indicate any bonus damage to Saber Slash damage for having stacks already on the target like it does on the Phase 3 live server, but testing confirms this damage bonus is still there. Saber Slash with 3 stacks on the PTR looks to be doing about double the damage of Saber Slash with 0 stacks. It's just that the tooltip doesn't seem to be updated yet. The ramp up time of Saber Slash in Phase 3 is definitely the rune's biggest weakness, and this change substantially reduces that ramp up time. I think Saber Slash will be a solid choice if you like to play with swords or maces or fist weapons, but it's too early to say if it will be better or worse than a Mutilate build in a min-max situation of pushing your character to its absolute limit. Did you think that was all? Did you think we were done? No way, there's actually even more great stuff coming for Rogues. There are 3 different coming soon changes that didn't make it into this build of the PTR. These were announced in Blizzard's forum post detailing notes about the PTR, which is linked in the video description if you want to see it. And the first one is that Shadow Step will no longer be on the global cooldown. This means you can Shadow Step and instantly kick, stun, or whatever you want to do to your target, rather than having to wait a whole second for them to react to your Shadow Step before you could do anything. This is huge for PvP, and still good, but certainly less relevant for PvE. Shuriken Toss will also see a significant change. It will now award 1 combo point per target that Shuriken Toss hits, which makes it a much better tool to initiate a pull with as a rogue tank. In order to not make this totally OP, Blizzard said a cooldown would be added, but did not specify how long that Shuriken Toss cooldown would be. The final coming soon change is for a Poison Knife. It will refund energy based on the number of deadly poison or occult poison stacks you have on your target. This one doesn't seem all that interesting because as long as Poison Knife still has a minimum range of 8 yards, it will only very rarely be relevant in PvE, so we'll see about that one. Finally, the last little tidbit of juicy rogue information in this video that I scrounged from the public test realm is this absolutely gorgeous ring, Craft of the Shadows. What a cool name too, by the way, I love that. It's got some decent stats with attack power, stamina, hit chance, whatever, but most importantly, it will increase your rogue's maximum energy by 10. That's again huge for PvP and also great in PvE. I'll definitely try to get this ring, but I currently have no idea how you obtain it just yet, so we'll have to wait and see where this ring comes from. Thank you so much for watching. That wraps up this video covering rogue stuff on the Season of Discovery public test realm for level 60 Phase 4. I'm really excited since rogues are looking quite good. We now have strong AoE, we now have a raid debuff that makes us a desirable inclusion in groups, we've got hype tank stuff and POG DPS gear. Very great stuff. I hope you're having fun in World of Warcraft, and I hope you have a great day.